energy security. And in the same vein, the Petroleum Product Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, has expressed strong support for the Federal Executive Council's recent approval of the continuation of the Naira for Flow policy, a move the association believes would mark a turning point in the country's energy sector. The Naira's valuation and the Nigerian government's policy regarding crude oil have significant impact on the country's economy, given that oil is a primary source of revenue for Nigeria. Nigeria is one of Africa's largest oil producers, and oil exports account for a substantial part of the country's revenue. Fluctuations in crude oil prices directly impacts the naira value.
The Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has implemented various strategies to manage the naira's exchange rate, including foreign exchange controls, market interventions, and the establishment of multiple exchange rates. The effectiveness of these measures can be this rise. The Nigerian government may experience increased revenue, which can support the naira's value. Conversely, falling oil prices can lead to budget deficits and the naira pressure the naira to depreciate. Policies aimed at stabilizing the naira are often intertwined with addressing inflation, which can be exacerbated by currency depreciation and can lead to higher costs for imported goods.
The government policies on the oil sector, including regulations, taxation, and incentives for foreign investments, can influence both oil production and the overall economic health, thereby affecting the naira's stability. In recent years, there have been calls for the Nigerian government to diversify its economy away from oil dependency. Policies as promoting agriculture, technology, and other sectors, decisions, and changes in global oil demand often back to crude oil prices and naira.
The interplay between crude oil value remains a critical aspect of Nigeria's economic landscape. As policies evolve, monitoring their effect on both the naira and the broader economy is essential. Today, on Morning Flight, we are taking a close look on this policy, naira for crude oil, the implication on the economy. And our guest in the house is a veteran journalist and a public affairs analyst, Mr. Gbenga. Thank you sincerely for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure having you in our studios.
I'm that. Thank you so much.
Now let's set the ball in this way. Can you explain the rationale behind the naira for crude oil policy of the federal government?
Well, that's a pretty long prologue to the program, and I'm sure you've covered a lot of grounds with regards to the issue of what the economy should be, what the issues have been, how oil or crude is at the center of it all. Now, it's not something that for long has been an economic dictionary. It's of recent origin, and that origin can be traced to the policy around 2023 when we have the Dangote refinery on the street, and then the issue now came up that how do you now have a Dangote mediating the high level of petroleum prices that we have, particularly PMS, and then that issue took the government to looking at the major input into petrol. It's the crude, which is refined to give it petrol. And therefore, that if you have a company, a refinery that is located in Nigeria here, and then given the circumstance context, the background in which it evolved. Remember that one of the things that was done in 2023 when the president came was absolute unconditional immediate removal of the so-called subsidy that we have, and that triggered up a lot of price increase. And that when Dangote comes on stream, it's going to reduce the price at which consumers are buying petrol. So the issue now became, how do we get this done? And then if we are going to get it done, what will be the policy changes that we make? And one of the critical things that the government thought would be that, look, if you can sell crude, which is the main input, which is the input for the refinery, that if you can sell it at the naira value, and then therefore it may have a kind of salutary effect on the price at which the Dangote refinery is selling to the public. And I think that's the point at which this phrase, the naira for crude, gained entry into the economic sphere of Nigeria. It's not something that we've had since independence or until that time. But again, it has, yes, it has its value, it has, and then, but it has its challenges. That's what they have been operating in the last 2 years.
2 years thereabouts. Now let's look at the more
hopes to achieve with this naira for crude policy.
I think the first objective really is quote and unquote, because the whole naira for crude policy, I think, was taken at the Federal Executive Council meeting in July of 2023 or so, and it started being operational in October 1st. So with 6 months initial period, and that 6 months initial period will have covered October 2023 to March, no, October 2024 to March 2025.
Yes.
So that will have which will be just a pretty last month or so that we left. So now part of three key objectives that they thought could be achieved with this is that they will affect the exchange rate. You know that one of the other policy, the twin policy, the president also was to float the exchange rate and then make it the price of exchange to be determined by the free market also. So, and then the second one is also that it will also put down, reduce the pressure on naira, and then probably then ease the way that business is conducted in the country. And I think the major point, which we is unspoken, which is very critical, is the impact it will have on the retail price of petrol in this country. Uh, with Dangote on stream and then producing about 650, refining 650 barrels of crude per day, which is a major one, and then we about 50 million liters, so they say 50 million liters per day in petrol in this country.
Yes.
So you can do the calculation and see if we give Dangote this much, we can also refine this, and that will reduce the overall price at which petrol is being sold in the country. But at the end of the day, there are challenges, like I said, you see more. As it is said, the more you look, and then the less you see.
now, in the mind of the average man on the street, we just believe that the coming on board of Dangote refinery definitely, at one time it was around 500 and something naira to 600 to 700, 800, 900. It even got to around 1,003 and it started coming back again. In the mind of an ordinary Nigerian, owing to the fact that Dangote refinery has come on stream. We have our four refineries, and at least some, not all, and at least part of the Port Harcourt refinery, the Warri refinery, coming on stream. A lot of people believe that when these refineries come, the optimism in their mind is that it will definitely come down to around 300. But looking at the situation of things, it's still around 800, 900 thereabouts, and believing that this naira to naira for crude oil policy is now in place, it should bring down the prices of this petroleum product.
Well, amazingly, when you tend to look at what has happened in the last 6 months uh, with regards to the naira for crude, you start questioning that what really is the motivation of leaders when it comes to terms of policy. Is their policy aimed at making more country, or is the policy really the desire of the policy or the goal of the policy to ensure that people really live? Because when you look at the impact of crude or petrol, which is petrol, which is derived from crude, petrol is a very strategic product.
Very, very.
And life depends on it. Economic life depends on it. Social life depends on it. Cultural life depends on it. Even the baby in the womb also feels the impact of the price of petrol. Because again, transportation, which is the key. Everybody must move.
Definitely.
And so when you tend to look at the framework in which they said this naira for crude, ultimately you will have expected that if you have a refinery that is located in
Nigeria.
is also deriving the major input, which is crude oil from
From
Nigeria,
Nigeria.
and is also paying for it in the local
In naira.
currency in naira.
And even the
Then,
workers are Nigeria.
and then the well, not all of
Not
them,
all.
not all of them. And even if you look at it, that basically is also paying salary in naira.
Mm.
Then there should be an effect on the price, on the sale price of this product. And this is what is amazing. If you look at the books, the guy that did the story, sorry, the punch, I think is on 23rd of May or so. So this year. Is it
Last year. Should be last year.
No, I think it's a very recent
Publication.
of the report. And what they did, it is that the NMPC had presented his books at the monthly Federal Allocation Revenue Committee meeting. And then the newspaper got opportunity of looking at the books of NMPC. And you can see from the book itself. That's why I asked the question, what is the interest of the leaders? Is it really to make money for the country or to ensure that the policy translates into better welfare and life for the people?
Nigeria.
Now, you said naira for crude. And basically, truly, NNPC supplied crude to Dangote. But the amazing thing is that the crude being supplied is sold at higher rate to Dangote than what we are selling at global price.
Mm.
So if you look the range at which we sell to the global
Dollars.
barrel and the maximum which we sold within the that that is $80. But for the local crude sold to Dangote, we sold as high as $86 per barrel. And if you also look at the conversion rate, you see the conversion rate is the Dangote they sold between 1,501 naira per barrel to a dollar to the maximum peak of 1,560 to a dollar. And then at the level of global one, which you converted, they converted is 1,400.
Like
So
1,500.
So you now ask yourself that which is our interest? Is it to make money, or to now have a way? Because you see, the whole issue it's about the country has the right, despite the fact that we're a member of OPEC, we have the right to make domestic policy in such a way that we, even if you have allocation made to us within the country, we can also supply crude as a domestic policy, which may not even counter what we supply globally, what we sell globally. So, and I wonder that what is rational for the country to undertake such policy? So, you look at what is sold to Dangote, the range of what is sold to Dangote is between $174 per barrel to $86 per barrel. Look at what is sold globally is between $70 per barrel, $80 per barrel. So you have ₦6 difference to what is. I mean, this is up.
The $6.
Even if you take a look, as at December 2024, when the country is selling $86 to Dangote, the price, the Brent price, globally is $80. So you ask yourself that what is the interest is for the government money? And now they come with the argument and say, you know what? This price is determined by African export and import bank. Africa. So that's for Dangote. The central bank now determines the price, excuse me, at which they sell to the world. So you can, but question, what is the rationale? And that's why the price is even at as much as 800 something that go to sell. Because it can go down, further down than that. Like you said, Dangote made an investment investment, 20 billion investment,
dollar, yeah.
$20 billion, and then like a businessman, he will recoup it. But there's also something called national interest. And it is for us to now say, look, yes, we'll make you over your money, but remember that this product is also a strategic product for us. And therefore, our domestic policy is not just to say naira for crude. The naira for crude must say that we'll give you X number of barrels at so price, which would, for the reason that we want to bring the price to this level. So, but I think the major issues involved is part of what we have also outlined in your prologue, which is that there are many vested interests. Vested interest in the sector, and those vested interests are not going to allow the people to benefit from that.
We will still talk about this vested interest after this short break. Stay with us.
I was saying that
About Gbenga.
well,
Let's look at the interest and also the relationship between government and the oil companies. How is the policy going to impact these two parties?
well, well, the government itself is invested interest in the Nigerian oil and gas, which is really complicating the whole management of that sector. Um, Government is not only involved, government is also a party. So, because NNPC is owned by government, and NNPC is a major player in the sector, forget about Petroleum Industry Act, which is just
It's on the paper.
because behind the act itself, you will find the normal politics within the industry. There are 3 or 4 major parties involved. You have the government, Ministry of the Government, the President, the Minister of Petroleum Resources and Development. You have NNPC. You also have the major marketers.
The NMPPRA as well.
Yeah, no, well, that's part of government.
Government.
Those ones are just supposed to be regulated.
Regulated.
Nigerian medium,
Midstream,
midstream and downstream.
regulatory agency.
That's just it. But the key policy will be at the presidency level through the Minister of Petroleum Resources. But the major operating institution in the sector is NNPC. NNPC. And then you now have the major oil marketers. The major oil marketers, 11 of them, which have also formed an association, registered with those, and they have a big place. They also have IPMA, and then the market, and then the Pedro, which we announced in this. These are the key agencies. But when you talk in terms of strength, the greatest strength on policy is government side, because it is not free market, it is not competition. It's on the sector is on the telecom sector, where government does not have any hold, except that of regulation. And this is what I'm see, NNPC still runs retail outlets. NNPC is a member of big marketer. NNPC sells the food. And unfortunately, when you look at it, NNPC even runs refineries. So NNPC is a competitor to Dangote. NNPC that is a competitor to Dangote is also NNPC that is also influential in terms of policy making. So that has distorted the entire operations in the industry. And that's the price Nigeria is paying. When you look at countries that have made major profit from their oil sectors, yes, look, Saudi Arabia, Aramco, you can't compare of Saudi Arabia. It's the biggest, one of the biggest in the world. And this is a refinery that has been in place, I think, since around 1993. And you want to compare with our own Port Harcourt, which was built in 1977, and yet we cannot even get it running. And Aramco is still running and expanding. And yet you've had 40 group managing directors from NNPC from 1977 to date. 40 of them. Sorry, 20 of them. 20 of them. And then you ask yourself, what are those 20? What are they doing in office? Look, it's like if you don't, your transmitter not working here, you are off air. And for years, everybody is coming to office, taking salary, and then you're having a GM. The GMs are changing the GMs, and they're having promotions, and then it cannot happen. But we have tolerated an NNPC that is a major liability to the country. And for the vested interest that will make money from the crude, we close our eyes to much more money we can make if we have liberalized that. And you see, Dangote proved the point. Beyond what he has done, the fact that Dangote mooted the idea of having a refinery in 2013. The entire construction of that industry didn't start until 2016 By 2023, he has achieved his aim. The refinery has been built. The refinery is operational. You see, Mili Kyari became the group MD of NNPC in 2019. 2019 till now is almost about 6 years. And he inherited 4 refineries and then gave the impression 4 months ago that the refineries are only for us to know that the refineries are not working now. They are not working. All the Port Harcourt refinery is not working. The Warri refinery, which they made so much noise about, is not working. And yet, the Kaduna is down. And they cannot work because even the pipeline that takes crude to them is damaged. And this is the annoying thing when you look at the house sector. At the point when they say subsidies, that we have to import in order to keep Nigerians moving. And then we spent 5 trillion. I think between 2013 to 2020, we spent a huge of
Amount of money.
5 trillion or so importing. Do you know that for to get the so-called refineries rehabilitated, we spend additional 4 trillion.
Yes.
So it's a double jeopardy for us. Double jeopardy in the sense that we are paying for in two ways for one thing, and all being borne by the Nigerian taxpayers. So it's a question that the more you look, the less you see. So like I said, it's a contest between the desire to help the people, to make them live, to make them survive, and then the desire to keep on making money, which is put on political with the people.
Now, Mr. Gbesan, so a lot of people, especially from the government side, will always believe that the policies in place right now may be harsh, may be stifling, may be uncomfortable for Nigerians at the moment, but in the long run, it will pay off. Now, looking at this narrative policy of the government, do you think it will eventually pay off in the long run?
Well, I doubt it, and I'll tell you why I'm doubting it. Policies don't just pay off without creating the conducive environment for it to pay off. Now, I've said it that within the last 6 months, two things have happened. First, you look at Naira for crude policy, and it's been established that they're even selling higher than locally, than the compared to the global price and so forth. And it will again, we still depend so largely on the amount of money we are making from crude. It's still a major revenue, and if the temptation will still be there to want to cut corners in the amount we are making. That's a major one. And as long as we still remain the spendthrift that we are, because we are spendthrift. Because how do you justify spending 5 trillion to say you are subsidizing, and you spend another 4 trillion
On turnaround
maintenance, and the turnaround maintenance turn around to the turnaround nonsense, and then we're still not making anything.
This one will definitely force on that.
Well, it will be pretty difficult. Remember that we also have vested interests, which are trying as much as possible not to allow things. And that's one thing that I confused about. Confused in the sense that the reason a government exists is to between groups. A government exists to ensure that the individual versus individual conflict is related. Individuals versus individual. Business versus individual. That is the essence. But the moment a government takes side, then you get the whole process of litigation. And that your policy will be ab initio will be difficult. So how does the government disentangle itself completely to say that look, in this industry we are a bystander. We stand at the what we do is to ensure that people who invest get the reward from their investment. Now, and by the way, look, if you look at Ipman says over we employ over 3 million people. We have over 3,000 members. We have over 10 trillion investment in Nigeria. And I keep on asking, if you have that strength, why can't you put pressure that you want to invest in refinery? You want to take over the government should sell those refineries to them, and then see it boils down to the problem we have. Average Nigerians love easy money. We want to go into trade. We want to exploit opportunities in government to make money. We don't want to put a stake. We don't want to risk and say, look, Nigeria took a risk
And it's paid off.
Well, I hope so. But you also say, look, we don't sell it. We have this strength, and yet you have the industry. Only what you are clamoring for is just for these products to be brought from somewhere, and that somewhere is the people that are deriving economic benefits. Because for every import of oil made into this country, one country is benefiting from.
Okay, let's open the phone lines this morning for our esteemed listeners to be part of this conversation. 0803 437 9453. 0803 437 9453 and 0815 032 022.
Morning.
Good morning, Dr. Emmanuel.
Good morning, sir.
Very right, sir.
And good morning, Mr. Gbesan.
Morning.
In fact, I don't think that way the news at the time, which I had used before, that what is happening in NNPC, that is here, or the petroleum industry is abracadabra. The more you go, the less you see. That's number 1 point. Let's say that, and I'm happy to hear that from you. Secondly, the terminology, okay, is just a terminology that is meant to have progressive people. I wonder why the crude is from Nigeria, Dangote is in Nigeria, NNPCL is in Nigeria, they are refining in Nigeria, and we are not beginning to verify the terminology minor for crude. In fact, I think these people who are asking, who are selling crude oil to refineries in Nigeria in Nigeria technology, to be charged for treason. But with that for treason, there are more than people who are trampling on the Naira and who are not being charged to court. Because people are also saying that our Naira has no meaning in Nigeria. Has no meaning when we are using foreign currency to do business in Nigeria and their government officials. If we ordinary Nigerians have no power to arrest them and get them caught, we come somewhere and we punish them. I'm sorry to use that, I don't know that this is my very sorry. Recently we had that is in fact whatever. Well, again, that is important to the fact that they are not doing well. And recently I read online that was complaining that there are vested interests who don't want him to succeed, but he will use a factor and he will fight. These are the people who are running NNPCL. They are not, and even if we have that with our place, that's just opening. We are not getting benefits from them. And yet they are competing. This is what this subject containers do. Where I hope people like Gbesan I don't know what you can do apart from doing all this analysis that opens our eyes. I don't know why all this madness about this, why you cannot float their own refinery. Please, if you can still get them, if you can urge them to do so, please do so, so that we can benefit from the good that is found in Nigeria. The finest in this country, and yet we say we are coming out of authority. But they are not patriotic. They are only defending for themselves. That is what they are. And we talk people who are buying petrol, but to attach our generators and people suffering. Now, what can we do to make sure that we have all these modular refineries in the college, the plan and also embedded in this sector to open their own refineries? Nobody has done it. A single person. Let others do it. I am still calling from Israel. I will work your good.
You too. Thank you so much, Adebanjo, for that wonderful contribution. 0803-437-9453 or 0815-032-0226. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Gigi.
Morning, sir.
How are you today?
Very well, sir. And I hope Ilaro is cool and quiet, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, Wale Osheni is my name. I'm calling from Ilaro. All of us in this country, all the power that we are shameless. monitoring us, they know everything that's going on in Nigeria. Like Emmanuel had said, we are producing crude oil in Nigeria, and we are refining in Nigeria, and yet we are trying to sell the crude oil in dollars in a way to send the local currency back. And the powers that be not shameless. They just have no shame. And it's a sorry case. Because when Dangote was to establish the refinery, we thought that would be the desire for fuel price in this country. But the reverse is the case now. And like Siniba said, it is abracadabra. The more you look, the less you see. Yes. Those powers that be are there, enjoying what the common people are supposed to enjoy. And whereas they are in money. Now, you have to know that Gbesan is handicapped. He cannot do anything about it. What he can do is what he's doing now, the analysis to open our understanding to what is obtaining, so that people who are the stakeholders should do something to rescue us from this suffering. Enough is enough. It is too bad. We produce this thing in this country and we are not enjoying it. Imagine selling the crude oil to Dangote at a higher price. That our prices are shameless. I repeat it.
Thank you very much.
And I don't know anybody.
Any apology. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, Elder Wale Osheni. Now, Mr. Gbesan, your reaction as we wrap up the conversation this morning.
Well, I think the others have spoken very well, but I'm afraid it may take a long time for this nightmare to end in this country. Democracy has its faults. One of the biggest faults of democracy is slow to change, to accommodate change. As long as the ballot box comes every 4 years and you complete and you can still go the same long way for endless time. But again, the kind of leadership that is just a leadership that will be pro people. Like I said, look at this balancing that is not done well. We keep making money and putting it into consolidated revenue fund, saying that we are distributing bigger action to states, and at the expense of the poor people who are going under very stifling and shocking environment. They are fighting for survival. Whereas we could have made things a bit easy if you have allowed a kind of policy which would be people centered. So I'm afraid it's been a lot of this thing that you have said. And by the way, the whole issue about the NNPC is that my stand will be completely for us to scrap NNPC. For government to take its hands off the oil sector.
There should be no business of government.
No, and when you look at countries where, look, the other states have over 300 refineries. They are working perfectly. 2 or 3 or so are saying that they want to move away from the state they are looking. The state enacts policies regarding the use of energy. It's not the federal government. So countries that today are messing up, that the crude oil has become a kind of this for them, are countries where government is deeply involved.
Mr. Gbesan, now, just in one sentence now, do you think the price of petrol and other petroleum products in Nigeria can come to as low as maybe 300, 200?
It can with the right policy.
Your parting shot.
It can with the right policy, and I think there are policies for government to have a domestic policy of supplying crude to Dangote and have an agreement with Dangote that this specific quantity we are supplying to you will be at this rate and this and this rate. Of course, if it requires subsidy, the government should subsidize it. As long as oil petrol remains at a high level of purchase, which it is today, Nigeria will be running hyperinflation.
Okay, just few seconds of parting shot on the program.
Well, like I said, my stand would be for us to keep on putting pressure that government should take its hands off completely from the sector. That's the only thing.
Thank you very much, and public affairs analyst, Mr. Gbenga. Gbesan. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
It's a pleasure.
We hope that the next time we invite you, we definitely oblige us, as usual.
Under consideration.
Okay, that is the length and breadth of the program this lovely morning. Special thanks to those who worked together from behind the scene from the newsroom. We have Elizabeth Kuforiji and Olabisi Musari.
And also many thanks to Polake Shueto, who has been behind the ICT, not forgetting Samuel Adebanjo, who is behind the console. And also, that's a very big thank you to the elders that contributed to the program this
Most
morning.
definitely.
This is a production of Babalola. I am Emmanuel Adebanjo, wishing you a pleasant Tuesday.
Temitope Babalola is my name. Please do have a great Tuesday morning. We love and appreciate